Good morning, third grade again. I am just so excited today because in history, do you like my bonnet, by the way? In history, we're going to talk about one of my favorite people. And I'm just so excited to be able to share a little bit today with you. So turn to page 348 in your history books. So excited. And you'll see who I'm talking about. I'm talking about Laura Ingalls Wilder. She was born in 1867 and died in 1957. Can you figure out how long she lived? I know some of you, Stephen, probably already figured that out. A few others of you probably thought it through already. We'll talk about it afterwards, but you think. And I know some of you have probably already figured it out. Turn to page 349 quickly, though. I want to look at the important words and important names. Important words, the first one is prairie schooner. And I know you've all seen prairie schooners. We've seen those kind of pictures. It's the covered wagon that was used by pioneers when they traveled west. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that with the Ingalls. Great Depression. It was a troubled time in the 1930s when many people were out of work and hungry. Interesting. Then important names, Laura Ingalls Wilder. She is the author of the Little House books. And so we're going to talk a little bit about her and her life and what she was able to share with us through her life. The Big Woods. Charles and Caroline Ingalls and their daughters, Mary, Laura, and Carrie, lived in a little house in the big woods of Wisconsin. Their little house was built from logs that had been cut from trees in the big woods. Although no other people lived near them, the Ingalls family had plenty of neighbors. Bears, panthers, and wolves, as well as timid deer, squirrels, and rabbits lived in the big woods with them. Were the girls ever afraid of their neighbors? Sometimes, but the Ingalls family knew they were safe and snug in their little house in the big woods. And you can see the picture of the replica there. They made it look like it did. It's not the actual house, but it looks like it. Because there were not many people living near them, the Ingalls family made most of everything they had. Mr. Ingalls built the house and made the furniture. Mrs. Ingalls made clothes and cooked their food over the fire in the fireplace that warmed their home. The family did not have much, and times were often hard, but they worked together and helped each other. Moving west. As time passed, more pioneer families began to move to Wisconsin. And we remember, where's Wisconsin? Wisconsin is doing what? Yeah, punching into the side of Minnesota, which is why Minnesota's a little crooked to the side there, right? So more families began to move to Wisconsin. Now they had real neighbors. Like many pioneers during this time, the Ingalls family was ready to go to the next place. People were getting too close. I don't know what they would do in today's society. They'd be kind of freaked out that everybody's right on top of each other. They moved often during Laura's life. Sometimes they moved because the land was becoming too crowded. Sometimes they moved because the crops were hard to grow, or large swarms of grasshoppers came and ate their crops. Interesting thing you've probably not heard, but we'll talk more about that after as well. No matter where they moved, the family stayed close and everyone helped with the work. One day, Mr. Ingalls said, "It is time to move west." He built a prairie schooner that would carry the family to their new home. The family's dishes, clothes, food, and a few pieces of furniture were packed into the wagon. As the wagon wheels began to roll, the little house grew smaller and smaller until the girls finally could not see it anymore. So that little house that was in those big woods, they were leaving it behind and moving somewhere else. Oh, but look at the next title. Sickness Comes to the Ingalls Family. When the Ingalls family moved west to the prairie, they had a farm in Minnesota. So they moved from punching Wisconsin into getting beat up Minnesota. They had a farm in Minnesota on the banks of Plum Creek. Mrs. Ingalls, Mary, Carrie, and their new little sister Grace had became very ill with scarlet fever. The doctor came every day, and Mr. Ingalls and Laura took care of them. Everyone got well, but later Mary's fever returned. Mary's fever caused her to lose her eyesight. She would never see again. Mary was quiet and proper. Laura was a free spirit who was outgoing and had lots of energy. Who does that remind us of? Does it remind you of anybody else that we talked about? Hopefully you're thinking Louisa May Alcott, right? So these wonderful women writers that did these things, they were kind of free spirits and kind of fun. So Laura was a free spirit who was outgoing and had lots of energy. Even though they were opposite, they were very close, especially after Mary became blind. Laura promised herself that she would be Mary's eyes. Every new thing that Laura saw, she described to Mary. Perhaps in this way, Laura learned to give beautiful descriptions that she would later use when she became an author. She saw the flowers, birds, and animals for Mary as she talked about them. So we're going to stop there. We'll learn more about Laura and her family and different things. But I just wanted to ask a couple questions of review before we are done. What were some of the neighbors that the Ingalls had when they were in the big woods? Can you name some of those off? Yeah, the animals. So go ahead, name those off. Good. How was life for the Ingalls family different from life today? I want you to talk about that one with your parents. What is the difference today between what it was back then? What are some of the things that that your parents didn't have to do necessarily with where you're living today? In what ways was their family like yours? So tell some of the similarities and differences. So talk about that with your families and see what you come up with and let me know. For what reasons did pioneer families move from place to place? Right? They got too crowded. There was not enough room. Or the crops, they were hard to grow. Or what else? Grasshoppers that ate up all their crops. What sickness caused Mary's blindness? Good, scarlet fever. And then what did Laura promise herself that she would be for Mary? She was going to be Mary's eyes. Since Mary couldn't see, she was going to describe things to help Mary be able to experience. Because especially when they're moving all these new places, Mary couldn't see it, so Laura was going to explain that to her. So we're going to talk some more about the life of Laura Ingalls Wilder as we go through, and we'll find out some other things that she did. Hope you enjoyed that. See you soon.